$7,200. That's the approximate cost of what a storage locker here in Guelph costs if you thought you needed it only for 3 months and it turns out to turn into 3 years, which is what happens to a lot of people when they're downsizing. This cost won't show up anywhere on the closing statement of your purchase. Nobody hands you a bill for it. It just lands on your credit card statement each and every month. And that's the part that catches people. The money you lose downsizing doesn't get lost on the sale price. It gets lost in the stuff that you store away or that you're in a storage locker with. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 things that cost you the most when you downsize. 4 of them have nothing to do with real estate, and 3, I get into the math with real numbers and the source for each of those. So in the end, the question then becomes, does this fit the life I'm moving into? And I'll explain why this matters. And I'll also tell you what the key question to ask when dealing with someone who's passed. I'm going to explain in this video why those questions are so important. How will it avoid the 5 things that will cost you the most? Let's start with the one that catches almost everybody. Number 1, you're not pricing things when you sell them. You're pricing your memory of buying them. When we downsized, we had my parents' bedroom set. It's a solid mahogany wood. It's brass handles, still was in good shape. 2 dressers didn't fit our new bedroom, and I decided to sell the dressers. So I look on Facebook Marketplace and saw a lot of solid wood dressers, and they were asking for like $200 and $300. And I saw how long they'd been sitting on Marketplace, most for many weeks. And I realized even though the dressers were an expensive type of wood and in good shape, no one was buying them. I listed them for $50 each, and I sold them within days. Could I have gotten more? Perhaps, but highly unlikely. All those other dressers were still sitting there. So I was wondering, why wouldn't those other folks who had dressers and other furniture listed for sale lower their asking price? Well, here's what I think. Accepting $50 feels like an insult because the pieces were in great shape, still looks good. So they don't sell it, they wait for a better offer. Here's what's actually happening though. The $500 they might have bought it for, it's been gone for years. That money was spent whenever it was bought, and no buyer today is going to give it back to them. So the $50 isn't an insult. The $50 is the value someone is giving that chair or dresser. And the gap between the 2 numbers isn't a negotiation. It's the grief about letting go of that item and the value you put on it. And this isn't just about chairs or large furniture that's taken a real hit. Appraisers have been writing about this for years now. The hardest thing to sell are the big pieces: china cabinets, formal dining sets, armoires. Supply is enormous. Demand is small because younger buyers live in smaller spaces and they don't want this stuff. I know that's hard to hear when the dining set that was your nicest thing that you ever bought. But here's the rule I'd give you. Pick your price, list it once, give it 2 weeks max. If nobody buys it in 2 weeks at that price and it doesn't sell at that price, donate it or pass it along to someone who actually needs it. Because look at the math on holding on to it. Say you're waiting to get $500 instead of $50 for something. And that waiting adds 2 months to your timeline of decluttering. So for instance, in Guelph, the average single family home pays about $420 a month in property tax. 2 extra months costs is about $840 for property tax. So you spend $840 to chase $450 on Marketplace. And I work with people in Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge who are in this exact situation. Many of them in their 60s, 70s, and older. And they've been in their homes 20, 25, sometimes 30 years. And they own it outright or close to it. And they're trying to figure out what the next chapter actually looks like. And my focus isn't just the sale. It's the planning that happens before, during, and after the sign goes on the lawn. So here's number 2. Memorabilia isn't just memory, but the object still matters more than the people admit. You'll hear this a lot in decluttering advice. Let the object go. The memory stays with you. And I've even said this. That's about a half truth. The half that's wrong makes this whole thing harder than it really needs to be. Objects really do hold memory. When you pick up something, it brings back the person, the room, the year. That's not a weakness. That's how memory actually works. And anyone who tells you the feeling will just stay put on its own is asking you to believe something that doesn't feel true. And you can feel that it isn't true, which is why the advice doesn't help. Here's the version I think is actually right. You don't need 40 things to hold one memory. You just need one. Imagine your mother had 3 full sets of china like my mother did. She had her own and inherited a set from each grandmother. Serving platters, gravy boats, the lot. There's no room for 3 sets of china in a 2-bedroom condo. There's barely room for one, but there's always room for a teacup or a sugar bowl and creamer. If the memory is, for example, remembering your mom or grandmother drinking her tea out of a good porcelain cup, then the teacup is the memory. The other 15 pieces are storage. So that's the question to ask on every item. Not, does this matter to me? Almost everything in the house matters to you. The question is this 1 or 2 pieces that really matter the most to me and helps me remember that person? So here's number 3. The storage locker is the most expensive decision you'll make, and it always starts as a reasonable idea. You can't decide. The moving is coming fast, so you rent a locker. The idea is just for a few months, just until things settle down and you've got the headspace to sort it out. Well, a 10 by 10 locker here in Guelph runs somewhere between $160 to $250 a month, depending on the facility and whether it's climate controlled. Let's call it $200. That's $2,400 a year. Keep it 3 years and you've spent $7,200. Now, think about what's in it. Maybe a sofa, a dining set, definitely boxes of packed stuff. Maybe even garden tools you haven't used since you stopped gardening. So if you had to sell all of it tomorrow, would you get $7,200 back? My bet, after selling my parents' bedroom set, is almost certainly not. And that's the part that stings. You didn't just pay to keep it. You paid more than it's worth to avoid making a decision. So a storage locker doesn't solve anything. It rents you time at $200 a month. The decision is exactly as hard in year 3 as it was in month 1. So in fact, it gets harder because now you've spent $7,200 and letting go means admitting that. So if you do rent one, put an end date on it before you sign. Write the date in the calendar 3, 4, 6 months out, then deal with it. Here's number 4. Your kids probably can't take it, and that isn't a rejection. This isn't where I want to be careful because the usual advice gets it wrong. You'll hear people say your adult children need to come and get their boxes. Set a deadline. If they don't show up, ship it to them. And I understand the frustration. I really do. You've asked 6 times and nothing has happened. I've done the same thing. But I want you to consider something first. A lot of the time, your kids aren't avoiding you. They physically cannot take it. Both my daughters are in this boat. They don't have room to take anything. So think about your daughter renting a 1-bedroom in Kitchener, or your son and his partner in a townhouse in Cambridge with 2 small kids and no basement. It's not that they don't love your dining table. There is simply nowhere in the home to put that table that seats 10. That's not rejection. That's really just a space issue. And I think this is where a lot of the hurt comes from. You offer them the china, the crystal, the good furniture, and they say no. And it lands like they're saying no to your whole life. And I know my mom felt this very same way. Well, they're not. They're just saying no to 400 pounds of furniture in an apartment with 1 closet. So here's what I'd suggest instead. Stop offering them the collection. Offer them one thing. And I don't ask what they want. I ask what they remember. Those are different questions, and you'll get very different answers when you ask them. You'll be surprised because it's almost never the expensive thing. It's maybe the mixing bowl, or it's the ornament that came out every December at Christmas, or maybe it's that teacup I mentioned earlier. Now, for the boxes that genuinely are theirs, yes, set a deadline. Give them a date. Tell them plainly what happens after that date, and then follow through. But have that conversation on the phone first, not actually through a courier. And here's number 5. Almost everyone declutters in the wrong order, and this is the one that costs the most. So here's the order most people use. Step 1, start clearing out the basement. Step 2, get the house ready. Step 3, you list it for sale. And step 4, figure out where you're going. That's backwards, and here's why. Until you know where you're going, you don't know what fits. And if you don't know what fits, every single decision you make down there is a guess. So let me put a number on it. Imagine that you're in 2,200 square foot house with a full basement and a 2-car garage. And all of that adds up, and you might have 3,500 square feet of space that can hold things. Now, picture a condo you're considering, 1,100 square feet, one locker downstairs. If you're lucky, maybe it's 5 by 8 feet. So you're now going from 2,200 down to 1,100. You're actually going from roughly 3,500 down to roughly 1,150 square feet. That's not downsizing, that's 2/3 cut. And if you sort your basement before you know that number, you'll end up doing it twice because you'll keep the wrong things and give away the things you actually needed, which is exactly what I did, so don't do that. I've seen people spend 4 months decluttering and then find out the new place has no linen closet. There's no second reason the other matters, and this one is about money. Decluttering to live in a house and decluttering to sell a house are two different jobs with two different goals. A house that shows well is close to empty. Clear counters, half-empty closets, furniture pulled away from the walls so the rooms feel bigger. Buyers don't measure square footage with their eyes, they feel it. But you still have to live there for the 35, maybe 65 days it takes to sell and close. You need your dishes, you need a bed, you need your clothes. Those two jobs have to happen the right sequence, or you'll be unpacking boxes that maybe you've already packed. So what is the right order? Figure out the destination first, not the exact unit, the type, the size, the neighborhood, and roughly what it costs. You need a square footage number to work with, even if it's a rough one, and an estimate. Then measure. Take a tape measure to a unit like the one you're considering. Measure the living room walls. Measure each room. Measure the second bedroom. Measure the locker, and write those numbers down. Then sort against those numbers, not against your feelings, against the wall. Staging is the last pass, and it's a different job, again, with a different goal. Now, here's where this saves you real money, and it's just about tidiness. Movers charge by time and volume. So a local 3-bedroom move in Ontario runs roughly $3,000 to $4,500. Hourly rates for a crew of 2 to 3 with a truck are usually somewhere between $130 to $200 an hour. So every hour spent loading and unloading things, it costs you about $130 to $200. So if that's 3 hours of boxes that go straight into a condo locker and never get open, you've spent $400 to $600 moving things you're never going to use. Add that to the $7,200 for a locker, add the $840 that you've spent chasing the $150 on a chair. It adds up a lot faster than the emotional decisions feel like they should. So let me leave you with this, the thing that I'd most want you to take away from this. When you're standing in front of a pile of your own history, the question isn't, can I let this go? The question has no good answer at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday when you're tired and your back hurts. The question is, does this fit the life I'm moving into? That's a totally different question. It's kinder, and it actually can be answered. It takes the guilt and it puts a tape measure in it. And when it's someone else's things, maybe someone who's passed, the question changes again. It becomes, what did they actually love? Now, what did they own? What did they love? That's usually a few objects, and you get to keep those things that they love that help keep their memory alive. And there's one more thing I want to say before I think that doesn't get said enough. You're allowed to keep things. The whole conversation gets framed as though the goal is an empty house and whoever lets go of the most wins. That's not it. The goal is that the things you keep are things you actually see. Right now, most of what you're holding on to is in a box in a basement where nobody looks at it. That's not keeping it. That's storing it. Take the teacup out of the box. Put it in the cupboard. Use it. That's the difference between a memory and a storage problem.